Righteousness is an important theological concept in Christianity, Judaism and Islam. It is an attribute that implies that a person's actions are justified, and can have the connotation that the person has been judged, or reckoned as leading a life that is pleasing to God. William Tyndale remodeled the word after an earlier word rihtwis, which would have yielded modern English rightwise or rightways. He used it to translate the Hebrew root gigahertz unregistered trademark, tzedek, which appears more than 500 times in the Hebrew Bible, and the Greek word II plus or minus I to the first II, which appears more than 200 times in the New Testament. Judaism. Righteousness is one of the chief attributes of God as portrayed in the Hebrew Bible. Its chief meaning concerns ethical conduct. In the book of Job, the title character is introduced to us as a person who is perfect in righteousness. Christianity. The New Testament continues the Hebrew Bible's tradition of the ethical and legal aspects of righteousness. William Lane Craig argues that we should think of God as the paradigm, the locus, the source of all righteousness. Jesus asserts the importance of righteousness by saying in Matthew 5:20, "For I tell you that unless your righteousness surpasses that of the Pharisees and the teachers of the law, you will certainly not enter the kingdom of heaven." Jesus also reaffirms the laws of Moses by saying in Matthew 5:19, "Anyone who breaks one of the least of these commandments and teaches others to do the same will be called least in the kingdom of heaven, but whoever practices and teaches these commands will be called great in the kingdom of heaven." However, Paul the Apostle speaks of two ways, at least in theory, to achieve righteousness, through the law of Moses, and through faith in the atonement made possible through the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. Some interpret that he repeatedly emphasizes that faith is the only effective way, an antinomiistic interpretation. For example, just a few verses earlier, he says the Jews did not attain the law of righteousness because they sought it not by faith, but by works. The New Testament speaks of a salvation founded on God's righteousness, as exemplified throughout the history of salvation narrated in the Old Testament. Paul writes to the Romans that righteousness comes by faith. A righteousness that is by faith from first to last, just as it is written, "The righteous will live by faith." James 2:14-26 speaks of the relationship between works of righteousness and faith, saying that faith without works is dead. Righteous acts according to James include works of charity as well as avoiding sins against the law of Moses. 2 Peter 2:7-8 describes Lot as a righteous man. Type of saint. In the Eastern Orthodox Church, righteous is a type of saint who is regarded as a holy person under the Old Covenant but also sometimes used for married saints of the New Covenant. According to Orthodox theology, the righteous saints of the Old Covenant were not able to enter into heaven until after the death of Jesus on the cross, but had to await salvation in the bosom of Abraham. Islam. Righteousness is mentioned several times in the Quran. The Quran says that a life of righteousness is the only way to make it to heaven. We will give the home of the hereafter to those who do not want arrogance or mischief on earth. And the end is best for the righteous. See also, alien righteousness, biblical law in Christianity, Christian perfection, expounding of the law, imparted righteousness, imputed righteousness, justice, the ideal, morally correct state of things and persons. Justification, Pono for righteousness in Hawaiian culture. Proper righteousness, Rashid Mahdi for the Islamic concept of righteousness. Righteous among the nations, holiness, salvation, sanctification, ye, references.